Welcome back to City Slicker Builds here. We're working on Project Pink. This is going to be part two, the lights. As you guys saw before in the first video, if you watched it, I painted this Kawasaki model power wheel to this fluorescent pink and the black chassis for my daughter. So the next step here is going to be showing you guys how I'm doing all the lights and everything. When I was painting it, I already went ahead and mounted the headlights here. These are the 4-inch Headlight brand headlights. I will put links to all the products that I am using in the description for you guys if you want to go take a look at them. So again, these are the Headlight 4-inch pod lights. Wiring those up to be on a single switch, and then here are some LEDs. These are 3528s that came in today. They're pink. They're the little LED strip lighting here. So as you can see, it is on a 16.5 foot roll, so I'm going to have to cut it down. So I also ordered these adapters here. These adapters are made to link two of them together. But what I'm going to have to do on this, which is going to make my life a lot easier, is you can see this clamping end here. I'll come up a little bit closer. That will clamp on. I don't feel like soldering wires onto the LED strip light. So I can just basically cut this in the middle, and I got my two leads coming off for hot and ground. So that'll make my life a lot easier wiring this thing up. With the tape light here, what I'm going to be doing is cutting little strips and mounting it inside the fender wells here and running all the wires up to the second switch I already have mounted, which I will go over, of course. And then if I still have some and I feel like doing it, depending on how much light these throw from the fender wells, I will probably mount some up underneath here on the chassis for her. These are waterproof. It was $8 for this set. They're waterproof, so it should be fine to go play in the snow or outside and whatnot. So keep watching and see how I did this, and I'll try to give you guys as much info as possible as to how I am doing it, so you can do it to your kid's power wheel. So stay tuned. Okay, so far as you can see, is I've got the headlights mounted, and I've got the toggle switches already mounted. I will go over that as much as possible. I took a few pictures when I was doing that. Actually, quite a bit of the wiring is done so far. Before you work on any of this electrical stuff, please make sure you take the battery out. Should be a given. So to start at the front, how I did the headlights. In the first video when I was painting, as you saw before I painted, I marked my holes and drilled those so I can mount those lights in there. It's just about 1.5 inches back from that front mount there. Hopefully you can see that fine in the video. And then I took off this black piece here, which has one screw up underneath the nose here, and then it popped right out. I drilled 2 holes, obviously, as congruent as possible, and then I drilled a big hole in the center of the plastic down in there. Again, I'll try and figure out if I can put the video or the pictures in that I had taken when I was doing this type of work. What I ended up doing is running 2 long lines, a positive and a negative, from the battery chamber, we'll call it, back there, and then did 2 lead wires where I spliced the positives together into that hot coming in, and then one for the ground to tie those lights in, and then ran all the wiring back through here, which I doubt you're going to be able to see back in there because there's not enough light, but I ran those long enough so I could tie everything in. Took the steering wheel apart here to mount this rocker switch. This one is for the headlights. There's 2 screws here, or I'm sorry, a total of 4 on the bottom of there. I tapped a hole, or drilled a hole I should say, right there in the middle. And then what I ended up having to do is, because the prongs sat too low to fit in there with the handlebar mount, is I ended up bending those so they were straight forwards and straight back to clear there. Ran my wires down with the other wires that are included for the twist throttle here. Pulled those through and tacked them into the harness here. What I wanted to do to make the harness as simple as possible, where I wasn't cutting up the wires too bad, is I got these connectors here. So what I have here is a hot that goes up to the switch, and then a hot that comes back from the switch that is going to the headlights here. And then the ground for the headlight is coming all the way back to the harness and tapping in here. Let me see if I can pull some of these wires out. I've left them pretty long because I knew I was going to have to work on them some more with the other lights. So, as you can see here, bear with me as I pull all these out, is I tied these two hots together. So, I'm sorry, where I tapped into here is my two hots for the switches, is I tied the two ends together there with a male and female end connectors, and then I did a lead where I could crimp it onto the harness here. So I have a hot going up to this switch, which is for the headlights, and then I mounted another switch here for the underglow lights. So that's my two hots coming in there, and then I ran a hot coming off of here. On the negative side here, let me pull that around. As you can see before, as I went ahead and wired it up where I had a negative lead, so I can tap into that for the underglow lights. For this here, what I ended up having to do is there's a bigger hole up underneath here for this connector on the switch, is I ended up cutting it out with a die grinder, and then that gave me enough room for this switch to clear to set down in there and the wires to pull through. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward and easy. So now all I have to do is mount my 4 pieces that I'm going to do so far up on the fender wells and run my wires. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do those yet, but you will see in the video how I'm going to do those. So I'm going to try and make it as clean as possible of an install for her. So stay tuned and keep watching. Okay, before I did anything, I went ahead and measured to see how long I wanted the LED strips each. These are the front ones here. They're a little bit shorter. Those are about 9 3/4. And then the 2 rears for those fender wells, those are 11 3/4 each. So that way they should be hidden pretty well. You don't see them. So now that is where I am starting. What I did to start out is I took out the 8 total screws. You have 2 in each fender. I am going to work in the back. So let's see if I can get this up in here. So I'm going to mount the strip lighting right about in here. And then where I'm going to drill through is going to be right about here. And I'll show you on the inside. That's going to make it the easiest. Actually, you'll be able to see it from this other side as well. So I can come right in between this gap, and I'm going to do that on both sides. As you can see here, I've got my hole drilled. I did it on the other side as well. The drill bit size I used was a 5/16. You could use smaller since we're using small gauge wire. That's just what I had in my drill, and I was like, yeah, that'll work fine. So that's where I did that, and it's of course on the same on the other side. My 4 strips in the fender wells, just wanted to give you an idea on these. The rears are the same. What I'm going to do here for this hanging tab is hot glue it, then hot glue my wires after I get them connected to run back to here so everything's nice and tight. And then on the front, I ended up actually having to cut them down to 5.5 inches because I wanted them right here on this outside ring. And then I'm going to hot glue those again and then get all my wires nice and tight and run them up somewhere up in here-ish. I haven't figured that out. Okay, moving to the front end here, what would be easiest for you guys would be to yank the steering column out of it and then pull this top plastic off. I would highly suggest doing that for the whole thing of doing this, mounting the LEDs and running some of the wires. So I went ahead and ran one side, and I'll show you guys what I'm doing. So if you can look up under here, as I drilled a little hole there, ran my wires. Even with the body mounted down onto it, you still get a gap in between here. So what I'm going to do, let me come over to this other side so you can see here, is you can see my wires coming out, is I'm going to combine both the fronts together, and then I'm going to do a line going straight back to my power source and ground to the machine. So like I said, it'd be easier if you guys did that. I've already got the switch mounted up and wired in the steering column, so I don't feel like taking all that apart. So I'm doing it the hard way. Do it the easy way, is do the switch last, and so you can have this body off and make it pretty simple to go from there. Hey, I've got the four-wheeler flipped over here for you guys so you can see the underglow that I had put on the bottom of the machine. What I have done is I drilled a hole here for my 2 wires, zip tied them together to keep them nice and clean, connected them here, ran this strip the full length, did one of those connectors, jumping over to this side, and then coming down this, did another connector, looped that around here to try and keep everything nice and clean, and then another strip there to make everything as simple as possible. Don't know if you can pick it up in the video or not, but I am using hot glue to hold the wires and everything nice and tight to the machine. While it was flipped over, I went ahead and hit everything with some more hot glue, the wires, to try and keep everything nice and tight. So hopefully it's not visible with it flipped the proper way and her riding it. Right now we have the machine upright. What I did here, as you can see, I'll get down in here, see if you can see it, where I drilled that hole, pulled the wires up through the front, so I don't have to worry about them messing with the battery sitting in this area here. So the hot and negative come up through there. I doubled them up on connectors here, and then I had my tag lines already built into the rear lines. So what this is combining here is the front and the bottom LED lights. So those, as you can see here, I've got them taped up so I don't get any shorts or anything like that. Run into here to a tag line where I doubled those up as well, which comes off the strip and then the ground to the battery. So let's get the battery in here and fire this thing up and see what it looks like. Alright y'all, this is going to complete Project Pink here, part 2 with the lighting. Check this out. Bam! Underglow lights, got it in all 4 fenders, running it up under the center. Check out the headlights on this thing. They're bright for little 4-inch LED pods. So, let my daughter take it for a ride. Shot a little bit of video so I can post up for you guys here. So yeah, hopefully this intrigues somebody to get out in the garage, and hopefully their kid is old enough to help them tinker on their Power Wheel, or if they got an ATV or something like that, the ATV or go-kart or whatever would be very similar to doing it just like this Power Wheel here. But yeah, I know my daughter loves it. This is awesome. You know, it's going to look cool at night. It's going to also be a safety feature. So that way I don't have to worry about cars not seeing her or anything when all the kids are playing at night and riding on these things in the summer and spring when it's nice and warm out. So thanks for coming back to the channel. Please hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesome videos to come along the way. Thanks.